She's fierce, she's loving, she's a boss, she's giving sisterhood, support, and service. Mocha Mom. She's fierce, she's loving, she's a boss, she's giving sisterhood, support, and service. Mocha Moms. She is, yeah. She is Mocha Moms. She is, she is Mocha Moms. Welcome, 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 Mocha Moms and friends and family. My name is LaShawn Martin. I am the National Vice President of Mocha Moms Incorporated, and we are so excited to have you here this evening for this session, this very, very, very important session. So before we get started, I would like to have you just shout yourselves out in the chat. Let us know what chapter you're calling from, what state you're joining us from. Let us know who's in the room. I see some of you are joining us now. Hey, from Alexandria, Virginia. I know that we have Mochas and friends from everywhere. So shout yourself out in the chat. As we move through the evening, we'll be able to put your shout outs on the screen. So the first thing I would like to say is that Mocha Moms Incorporated is the premier voice for mothers of color. Through chapters nationwide, including Hawaii, and online, Mocha Moms Incorporated provides support for women of color as they journey through all of the phases of motherhood while we advocate for ourselves and for our children nationally. Our focus is sisterhood, support, and service. If you've heard anything about Mocha Moms, you know that is what we focus on. We host weekly sister socials, Moms Night Out, social events, conferences, community service events, and so much more. In order to join our sisterhood or find a local chapter in your area, if you're not familiar with Mocha Moms Incorporated, go to mochamoms.org, and we will have that link for you in the chat in just a moment. This evening's topic, Thriving, Not Just Surviving, a guide to health, wellness, and comorbidity prevention for Black women, is a topic that's very close to our hearts at Mocha Moms Incorporated. Oftentimes, we take care of our babies, but not ourselves. So we're committed to health and wellness, which is why we have webinars like this to share resources and information with our members and guests via in-person events and also webinars like this one. Our prior events with the National Institute of Health, All of Us research program, have included understanding family health, history, and heritage. It's also included understanding genealogy and the importance of mothers of color in medical research. We're going to talk about that a little bit tonight as well. Understanding precision medicine and maternal health. And we've also recently had an event on NICU moms and medical research. You can find these videos on our mochamoms.org website. You can also find them on our YouTube page. And the link will also scroll across the bottom as this webinar continues throughout this evening. So we'll make sure that we have lots of information and lots of resources for you. But before we jump into our discussion for this evening, I encourage you to engage in the chat. We will have a live Q&A at the very end, but we also have lots of pre-submitted questions that came in. You Mochas were very excited, and guests were very, very excited about this topic. So I want to make sure that we have time for those answers. And I will let you know now that there are lots of questions that came in ahead of time. We're going to answer your questions live. We're also going to answer the pre-submitted questions. In the event that we go over an hour, we will invite you to stay for our Mocha Q&A after party. So if you have questions that you did not get answered during the live session or within the first hour, we will make sure that you have time to stay behind to get those questions answered. And we have a phenomenal, phenomenal speaker. The first thing I'd like to say is that she is Dr. Dianah Lake, but she is also a Mocha mom, hailing from the Silver Spring, Maryland chapter. And I'm sure they are on here and excited about her being here and being our speaker. Dr. Di has been with us many, many times, and this time is no different. She is going to pour so much knowledge on you this evening. So we're excited to have her. Let me formally introduce her by saying Dr. Di is an emergency medicine physician. She's a best-selling author and speaker. She's a fitness and weight loss coach, menopause wellness expert, autism parent advocate, and founder of Dr. Di Fitness. Using her clinical experience as an emergency medicine physician and her knowledge and expertise as a fitness and weight loss coach, Dr. Di promotes a holistic approach to disease prevention, healthy living, fitness, weight loss, menopause wellness, longevity, and overall wellness. She is a sought after speaker on various health and wellness topics for churches, conventions, conferences, summits, podcasts, magazines, TV shows. You've probably seen her. Work with Dr. Di to sculpt and fit your body and absolutely love the body that you're living in. Create a happy and healthy and holistic lifestyle. Customize a nutrition plan that you can utilize for a lifetime. You can create a holistic approach to disease prevention, which is what we're going to be talking about tonight. Fitness, menopause relief, weight loss, longevity, and overall wellness. Also develop a fitness mindset so you can feel sexy. Come on, sexy, strong, confident, and youthful again. Lose weight effectively with or without weight loss medications. We had questions about that this evening. Dr. Di, in her spare time, she enjoys gardening, running, tennis, bodybuilding. You'll see some pictures in a moment, dancing, spa days to exotic locations around the world. If you follow her, she has amazing trips. She has amazing retreats. So with that, I would like to turn it over to and welcome with a hearty Mocha Moms Incorporated welcome to Dr. Di.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Hold on, I'm not in the Silver Spring. I'm in Howard County.
Why did I say Silver Spring? Please forgive me. Howard, I know they are cutting me up right now. Howard County Mochas. Please forgive me, y'all.
Yes, Howard County Mochas, man. Oh, all right. So should I just jump in right now? Thanks, guys, for coming on. It's going to be awesome. We have so much to talk about. So I'm going to do what I can with the presentation, go through the preventative things that I want you to know about, and then we're going to jump into your questions because I know you guys have hot questions. Okay. All right. Let me see. LaShawn, I'm going to pull up. Should I just pull up the share my screen, right? Or are you sharing? Were you sharing it already?
It's on the screen now. It's sharing now.
Okay, so let me see. Do I just hit enter? How do I move forward?
If you go back to your original space, do you want me to stop the share and then you can go back?
All right, let's see. Stop share.
Yes.
Okay.
And bring it back up and then you should have control.
Okay, hang on. I hope it works. Please work. All right, so let's see. Can you see the screen? Because I can't see it now. I just see my screen. I don't see you guys.
We can see the presentation screen now.
Awesome. Okay, so I am going to get started. I'm Dr. Dianah Lake. Thanks for having me. I'm an emergency medicine physician. I also do fitness and weight loss and menopause wellness. So I want to talk today about prevention because a lot of the conditions that many of us in our families are plagued with, a lot of them can be prevented, right? Let's just say, diabetes, blood pressure, the obesity in general. And we're going to talk about how obesity kind of, increase your risk for all these other things, certain cancers, stroke, heart disease, and all those things, right? And then some of our behaviors, all right, smoking, alcohol, being sedentary, all of those things are risk factors. So we can do something about everything that I'm going to be talking about here. So as we're going through this, I want you to be in the energy of how have I been showing up, right? How have I been showing up? I show up great for work, right? I was just doing another, webinar earlier today, and we're talking about that. We show up really well for work for other people, right? We're on our A game when we show up at work. We're on our A game as moms to make sure our kids have everything they need. We will drive through traffic, right, to get to that recital for that kid. But then when it comes to getting our own workout in, or making a meal plan, or following the the nutrition plan we paid for, or something like that, then we don't keep that integrity, right? We don't keep integrity with our word to us. but we're keeping integrity to our word to everyone else. So that's what I want you to be thinking about as I'm going through the prevention recommendations and things. Ask yourself, have I done this already? Have I gotten my flu shot? Have I gotten my mammogram? Have I gotten a colonoscopy, right? And I'm going to give you the age ranges for all these things. And if you haven't, it's not a thing to beat yourself up about. It's just to say, look, I've been, slipping right now. So let me get on it. Maybe even, put something on your calendar for tomorrow, right? I need to call and get my colonoscopy set up, or I need to call and get my, my vaccine, or whatever the thing is that when we are going through this, that's the energy I want you to be in. Okay. What I haven't done yet that I need to get on. All right. Just so that you're compliant with the things that are going to make you a better human being. And when you're healthier, you become better in all other areas of your life. It literally permeates through everything. You show up differently at work. You show up differently in your relationships. You show up differently. You just show up with this sense of, confidence, that you're in the space you're supposed to be in. So that's the energy I want you to come when you're listening to this. That's the energy I want you to come to it with. Don't beat yourself up. If you haven't done these things yet, it's not, the worst thing in the world, but at least now you're aware. Okay. So I just wanted to start with that. Okay. So we're going to be talking about many chronic diseases. As you can see on the slide there. LaShawn, can you see my slide? I want to make sure.
Yes, perfect.
Okay, awesome. You can see all of the chronic diseases on the bottom of this slide. We're going to be talking about a lot of them. Okay. So managing our weight is going to solve so many problems, right? Managing our weight is going to help with pregnancy if we decide to have additional children. I've had so many people come to me to lose weight before getting another, child, because they don't want to go into the new pregnancy with 40 pounds or 30 pounds from the previous pregnancy, right? So going into pregnancy, if some of you are still, I'm 50 now, so that ship has passed for me. But if you're still doing that, right, and you're planning to have more children, you really want to be mindful about how you're going into that pregnancy. All right. And then we're going to talk a little bit about some of the things within pregnancy too that increase your risk for other conditions, like, gestational diabetes, hypertension in pregnancy and all of that. I will talk a little bit about that too. But let's start with obesity, because at the crux of the issue, for a lot of the chronic conditions that we end up being plagued with, and our family has been plagued with, and now we're carrying this story in our minds that it runs in our family when it doesn't really. It just happens that multiple people in the family just have poor habits. It's not that it runs in your family, it's that everybody keeps doing the same things that are leading to these chronic conditions. Okay. So that's another mindset shift I would like you to, I would like to invite you to sit with. How many things right now are you going around saying runs in your family when it may not necessarily run in your family? It's not hereditary, but everyone keeps showing up that way and keep getting it because the bad habits, the poor habits keep going from generation to generation. All right. So we can stop this with you. You can be the person that says, look, it's going to stop with me. And that's what I did. Right. My dad, just to give you a personal story, my dad passed away 16 years ago, this June coming up, from complications of diabetes. So it's been my mission to not get diabetes. Diabetes should not run in your family. Right? It doesn't run in your family. People keep getting it because people keep doing these things that they really should avoid, which we're going to talk about. All right. So my mission has been, this is a preventable condition. I'm not going to get it. And I'm going to be tenacious about doing everything I need to do to make sure my weight is in check. I'm eating properly. I'm making sure I'm checking my carbs, the simple sugars, right? I'm moving, I'm eating well, I'm managing my stress. So as I'm talking about this, you should be asking yourself, how am I doing in these areas? So I want you to do a personal audit. Okay. How am I doing with my stress management? How am I doing with people pleasing? How am I doing with showing up for myself? How am I doing with going for my annual physical, which is a thing you should be doing for prevention? At that physical, I'm going to tell you some of the things you should be asking, right? Advocate for yourself when you show up at that office. Have questions ready already. right? Ask about the hemoglobin A1C. Ask about what should be my normal blood pressure. Like, know these things for you. Okay. So let's talk about obesity. You see the stats there. Obesity affects 100 million American adults. That's almost 42% of US adults are considered to be obese. Okay. About 20% of American children. All right. And this number keeps going up. So more and more kids are actually landing in the obese category than ever before. Okay. We're also seeing more adolescents getting adult onset diabetes while they're still children. Okay. So the obesity thing is a major, major problem for financially, you'll see how much it costs if you are an obese person to maintain your health than if you're not. All right. So these are some of the related conditions that your risk for these conditions will be increased if you're obese. Heart disease. You want to take notes. Heart disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes, certain types of cancers. Okay. A lot of the cancers that your weight is going to be connected to would be things that are, like intestinal cancers, right? Colon cancer, right? Things that have to do with food. All right. Things that have to do with your GI tract, your gastrointestinal tract will have a higher risk with obesity. Okay. Hypertension, elevated blood pressure. That also increases your risk for a lot of things. So if your blood pressure is out of control, okay, pregnancy can increase your risk for blood pressure, right? So if you're pregnant or you're going to get pregnant, that's another thing you want to be mindful of is managing your blood pressure. Sometimes when you've had high blood pressure during pregnancy, it increases your risk for that high blood pressure remaining. The same thing with gestational diabetes. If you get diabetes during pregnancy, which can happen, it increases your risk for developing, diabetes after the pregnancy. Sometimes it goes away, sometimes it stays. So I want you to be aware of these things. Gallbladder disease, all right? Obesity increases risk for that, okay? High cholesterol. So I'm just going to list them out. Chronic pain. It could be joint pain, it could be back pain, sleep apnea, difficulty getting quality sleep at night. Why is this important? If you're not getting quality sleep at night, it's going to affect your ability to actually tone and sculpt your muscles, even if you're going to the gym and doing a workout. Because your muscle toning, sculpting, all of that is happening when you sleep. So if you're obese and you're having trouble staying asleep or getting to sleep or having great quality sleep, is it affecting your focus, right? It's affecting your ability to react while you're driving. It's affecting your food choices the next day. All of these things are connected to sleep, okay? Your growth hormone, which is our hormone of vitality, is produced during sleep. So if you're having poor sleep because of your weight, it's not just the sleep. So many things are affected by that. So I want you to know how the weight is connected to all these different things and what we can do to really get it under control. Okay, let's talk about functioning. Just being able to function. For me, I'm running a fitness challenge right now, and I was telling the ladies, look, when you say what are your fitness goals or your wellness goals or your health goals, you may say, oh, I want to lose 50 pounds. But is it truly the 50 pounds itself? I want you to ask yourself that right now. What is the deeper thing? What would losing the weight give you? Is it mobility? Is it, being able to be active with your kids? Is it functionality? And that's what I wanted to talk about here. Physical functioning. All right. The lighter you are on your feet, the more agile you're going to be as you get older into your, 40s, 50s, 60s, the more functional you're going to be is when you have that agility, when you have, you're able to move, you have stamina, you're not falling, you're not getting short of breath just after moving for 5 minutes. So I want you to think about all of these things. Quality of life, chronic inflammatory processes in your body. Okay. All of that. And then just mortality in general, increasing inflammation and stress on a cellular level. All of these things are happening as a consequence of obesity. Okay. So when you go for these exams, when you go in the office and you're talking to your doctor, don't be ashamed to talk about your weight. I work in the ER and I'm in a good opportunity to talk to people about their weight because they're in the ER and they're struggling. They're in there because they can't breathe. They're in there because they're having, some heart attack or stroke or some other thing going on. So now they're ready to listen. And I have these conversations with them about managing their weight because a lot of times that's where a lot of these other problems, come in. All right. So like I was telling you before, the cost of medical, care for someone who's obese is $1,800 a year more. Okay. There are the ethnic groups, and you can see African Americans, almost 50%, right, are considered obese. Hispanics, 45.6%, whites, 41.4%, Asians, 16.1%. If you look at the age groups, okay, 39.8% of adults from age 20 to 39 are considered obese. And then the midlife, right, from 40 to 59, 44% of us are in the obese category. And if you're over 60, 40% are over, 41.5% for people 60 and older are obese. So this is a significant problem. All right. So I'm not going to go too deep into the rest of this, but I want to switch over to the prevention stuff. But I want you to know what's considered obese, what's considered overweight. Okay. What's considered a healthy weight? What's considered underweight? All right. So this is how we figure it out. A lot of African Americans feel like this particular tool, which is the body mass index tool, is, works for Europeans and it doesn't work for us as Black people. Because what I hear a lot, people say, oh, we have dense bones. We have, we're big boned, and this doesn't, relate to us. Yes, it does. All right. Now, what you want to get from this is that you want to look at the body fat percentage, right? This BMI does not take into account body fat percentage of muscle mass. So yes, we do have, dense bones. Yes, we carry our weight well, a lot of us, right? You could be 190 pounds and look solid, right? And in your mind, you're like, I'm not obese. But if you go by the weight and the height, you might fall in the category of being overweight or obese. All right. And for those of you who wanted to know about the weight loss medications, this is another thing we use for that. We see where you are. If your BMI is between 25 and 29.9, you're considered overweight. If your BMI is over 30, you're considered obese. Okay. And we do it height, we basically do the calculation based on your height and your weight. So there are many other, factors that lead to obesity, and you can see some of them there on the slide. Okay. And a lot of it for people with lower income is just access, right? Access to healthier food, access to gyms, access to parks, and things like that. So those are some of the things that can be societal, environmental factors leading to obesity. So some of it may not be in your control, but a lot of it is. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second because I actually want to talk to you guys about the rest of this for the prevention stuff. So let's see. How do I stop sharing? Okay, here we go. All right, I'm going to stop sharing. Good. All right. Okay. So the next thing I want to go into, and we'll just do all the questions at the end, right, LaShawn? Like if they have questions now, we'll just wait until the end.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So the first thing I want you to think about when it comes to prevention is your annual exam, right? If you have a primary doctor, you have a family practice doctor. Let me tell you the different types of doctors first that will be doing this. You can get a physical exam with your gynecologist. You can get an annual physical exam with your primary doctor if they're an internist. Internal medicine doctors see only adults. They don't see kids. You can get a physical exam with a pediatrician if it is a pediatric mom. We do have that, right? Some people are teenagers and moms, and they can still go to their pediatrician to get their physical exam. You can go to a family practice doctor who's a doctor that sees everyone from newborn to 112 years old, right? That's your family practice doctor. So you can go to those different types of doctors to get your physical exam. That's something you want to do every year, is get your annual. Okay. When you go there, you want to come with a plan. You want to come with questions. You want to come with, asking questions about what should I be getting now at this age? Let's just say you are 22 years old, right? What should you be getting at 22? They'll probably want you to get a flu vaccine. They might talk to you about getting a COVID vaccine. They'll talk to you, if you're still in college, they might do like a meningitis shot, so they'll go through all the vaccines and things with you. Okay. The other thing as a woman, they're going to start talking to you about when you're in your early 20s is your pap smear. Okay. Pap smear, you want to get every 3 years. You would get it more frequently if they found something wrong, right? Like say, for example, your initial pap came back and it showed that you had this, cervical dysplasia, which is like the cells are changing. It appears to be precancerous or something like that. Then you will have closer follow-up, right? But other than that, if it's coming back normal, you're going to do every 3 years. Okay. And that would start, pretty much in your late teens to early 20s, right? You're going to start doing that pap smear. So ask yourself right now, when was my last pap smear? All right. When was your last pap smear? And if you haven't had one in 3 to 5 years, then you want to make sure you check with your, gynecologist, to make sure you can make an appointment to set your next one. Right. Monthly breast exams. All right. Monthly breast exams. So once you get to that late teens, early 20s, you really want to start doing your monthly breast exams. You want to do it laying flat on your back, right? On the bed, put your arm over your head, and you want to go in circular motions and feel around the entire breast. If you have fibrocystic breasts, you're going to feel lumpy in your breast. A lot of women have fibrocystic changes in their breasts. And especially if you have that, you want to do your breast exams regularly, because if a new lump shows up, you want to be able to detect that. All right. So if you have fibrocystic changes in your breast, there's nothing wrong with having fibrocystic changes. A lot of women have it. But you want to really know what that normal for you feels like with the lumps there, right? It's going to feel bumpy. All right. You want to know what's normal for you. What's your baseline? So that if something else comes up, then you'll be able to detect it. So the monthly breast exams are super important. You want to check for lymph nodes in your armpits. You want to check for lymph nodes up here around the collarbone. You want to check the middle of the chest. You want to do the whole area, right? You want to look for symmetry. When you're doing the breast exam, you want to look in the mirror. You can put your hands together and push your fingers, your palms together and contract. Well, you can see my muscles. So you can see when I push my hands together, you can see my pectoral muscles contracting, right? So when you stand and look in the mirror, you want to push your palms together and see if one breast is like moving up higher than the other, if there's asymmetry, if you have any swelling of one breast compared to the other one, if there's any color changes. You want to look at the nipples. You want to squeeze to see if anything's coming out. You know what I mean? You want to really get comfortable with your breasts. All right. It shouldn't be a thing where you're ashamed to touch your own body. You need to know your body more than anyone else, right? So if something new pops up, you'll be able to detect it very quickly, because early detection for a lot of what we're talking about here is going to save your life. Early detection for colon cancer, early detection for breast cancer. And the thing with Black women, a lot of us show up late. All right. Our mortality is higher in all of these chronic conditions because we show up late. We don't get diagnosed early enough to be able to get the earlier treatments, right? We show up, literally, I have people show up at the ER and they've got this huge mass on their breasts. And they're like, oh, I just saw it 3 weeks ago. I'm like, man, there's no way you just saw this 3 weeks ago, right? Because it looks stage 4. The breast is like mangled, right? It just doesn't look normal. But somehow we wait late because we don't trust doctors, some of us, right? And we know why, right? A lot of us know some of the studies that were done on Blacks. So some people don't trust doctors, but I really urge you to get these preventative things done, as frequently that they're required. Okay, because the earlier you can get all of these things detected, the more options we have to treat you, right? The more likelihood you'll have to live beyond it, right? You can have a lumpectomy if you've got, a stage 1 breast cancer, right? Literally, they can just go out and take out the tissue. You don't have to have a full mastectomy, right? But if you wait till stage 3, you know what I mean? Or you wait and it's too late and you haven't been going to the doctor because you've just been avoiding it because a lot of times people will come to the ER and they're late in their presentation and they'll say, I just didn't want to hear bad news. You don't want to hear bad news, but now we can't do as much for you as we would have if you had come a year earlier. So you see what I'm saying? So please don't be that person. All right. Show up early, get your annual visits, get all the screenings, right? So let's talk about them right now. All the things you want to get when you show up for this visit. Okay. So it's all based on age, the different age groups. All right. So like I was saying, if you're in your late teens to early 20s, you really want to make sure you're doing your pap smear, and your pap smear is going to go well into your 60s, right? Unless you have a hysterectomy, or you have some other procedure later on, right? But basically, if you have all your parts, reproductive parts there, you're going to be doing your pap smear every 3 years unless something shows positive. All right. You want to be getting, if you're sexually active, STI screenings. This is a thing I fight with people a lot on because they're like, oh, but I'm in a committed relationship. I don't have any concerns that anything's going on. Why should I go and get STIs? STIs, by the way, is sexually transmitted infections, okay? Or STDs, sexually transmitted disease, right? So you might say, oh, I don't feel a need to go. Well, if you are having any kind of foul odor, right? If you're having a weird discharge, if you're having, like you can have a physiologic discharge, like just a slight discharge that may come from time to time. But if you're having odor, if you're having, painful intercourse, if you're having like all these different things that are happening, go get this checked out, right? Don't assume, oh, I'm in a, committed, intimate relationship, so I trust this person, so I'm not going to go and get myself checked out. All right. So check for STIs, check for them, frequently, right? You can make that just be something when you go get your pap smear. They can also check for chlamydia. They can check for, gonorrhea. They can check for trichomonas. They can check for bacterial vaginosis. They can check for syphilis, right? You can check for all these different things. All right. Some of them will not give you symptoms. So that's why the screening is important. We see this a lot in pregnant women who come in and we're screening them for all the pregnancy stuff, and then boom, they've got chlamydia. If they weren't getting those pregnancy screenings, we would not have known that, right? So getting the STI screenings is very important, and not just when you're in your 20s or 30s. This should be across the board. Obviously, if anything pops up that make you feel suspicious, right? You're going to go get it done anyway, right? So colonoscopies, let's talk about colonoscopies. The new number is 45, right? Colonoscopies was 50. Would have brought that number down to age 45. You should get your first colonoscopy. All right. When you go for that colonoscopy, they're going to give you something to drink to clean out your colon so that they can be able to look for polyps. They can look for precancerous cells. So you want to get that first screening for your colonoscopy at 45 now. That's the new number, okay? 45. If you're 45 or older and you have not had a colonoscopy yet, please get it scheduled. Men and women, all right? And, if there are men here that are listening to this, your screenings that you want to get to, would you get to do, like your PSA to look for, your prostate, right? You want to check that. Just like the women are going to be doing their mammograms, right? At age 40 and beyond. When you get to like that 45, 50, you want to start checking your PSA as well. Some clinicians will even check your PSA before, 45, right? So if they're men or women that are here, you want to check on your partner. Ask your hubby, hey, have you gotten your PSA checked, right? So if they're not listening, you can advocate for them, right? We want our men here for a long time, right? To help raise these kids, right? And be partners and go through life and enjoy, our older years together. So you want your partner to be healthy. So you want them to get these screenings. What's the other one? When you go into your physical exam, you want to get a hemoglobin A1C level. The hemoglobin A1C is a screening for diabetes. Okay. It tells us how well your glucose has been controlled for the last 90 days. Okay. If that number comes back over 6.4, 6.5, then you're in that diabetic range. Okay. If it's less than 5.4, you're good. If you're in that 5.6, 5.7, 5.8, 6.1, that's pre-diabetes. Okay. So you want to know what your number is. Okay. Let me make sure my computer is charged here, so I don't, let's see. Okay, I'm good. All right. So hemoglobin A1C you want to get. Don't say, oh, I'm skinny, so there's no risk for me. We see a lot of skinny people who are not healthy. Let's just debunk that right now. All right. Just because you're skinny doesn't mean you're healthy. All right. You could have, I've seen skinny people with blood pressure through the roof. I've seen skinny people with cholesterol through the roof, right? Because of their nutrition, because of sometimes that could be hereditary, right? The cholesterol, sometimes it's familiar, right? But you want to know your numbers. You want to get your lipid panel checked. Right? You need to be fasting when you go in so they can check your hemoglobin A1C, check your lipid panel, okay? And that lipid panel is going to tell the good cholesterol, bad cholesterol, total cholesterol, all those things. So when you go in, and you really want to start checking your cholesterol around 18, 20 years old. You don't have to be 35, 40 years old to get your first cholesterol checked. You want to get it checked early in life. So you may even start getting your kids. If you have a teenager, you can take them when they go for their physical with the pediatrician. You can have them get their lipid panel checked, right? What else? Let's see. We already talked about pap smear for cervical cancer screening. Okay. We talked about colonoscopy for colon cancer screening. We talked about mammograms, right, for breast cancer screening. All right. We talked about, what did we talk about? We talked about STIs, right? The sexually transmitted. I have some notes here. What else? Blood pressure. You need to know what your normal blood pressure you're living with. You want to know what that is, because blood pressure is a silent killer. They call it a silent killer for a reason, because you don't get any symptoms from a high blood pressure until you stroke out, until you're having a heart attack, you're having a stroke, you're having some major life event medically. That's when you will find out that you have high blood pressure typically, or you're about to pass out. Right? It's so high, you're having a headache, you have an aneurysm, and your blood vessel pops in your head, massive, catastrophic stuff happen when blood pressure is uncontrolled, right? Uncontrolled blood pressure also increases your risk for heart disease, stroke, right? So getting your blood pressure checked when you go to the doctor, asking, what is it? Because sometimes they won't even tell you. They'll just take it, write the number down, take your weight, go to the next thing. You want to know what your blood pressure is. You want to know that for yourself. Advocate for yourself. Ask, okay, what should the number be? It should be 120 over 80, which is the normal blood pressure reading. 120 over 80. Okay, the systolic blood pressure is the number on the top. The diastolic blood pressure is the number on the bottom. That's what the numbers basically, those numbers are when your heart contracts, the valves open for blood to pump out of your heart, and when the heart relaxes and the blood starts to fill the heart again. That's what these two numbers are measuring. Okay. Now, you want to know what's normal for you. Like for me, all my life, my blood pressure runs like 100 over 60, right? My heart rate is typically in the 50s or 60s. All right. The fitter you are, the lower this number will be. Okay. If you have a number that's in the 120 to 140 range, that's borderline. If it's over 140 for that top number, that's considered high. Okay. The bottom number, if that number is greater than 90, that bottom number on the blood pressure reading is greater than 90, that's considered high as well. Okay. What you want to do if you have high blood pressure, you don't want to have them just put you on medication right away, unless it's super, super, super high. Okay. If it's like 200 over 110, they're going to put you on blood pressure medicine right away. But if it's something in the middle of the road that you can do some behavioral modification, lose the weight, just losing 10% of your body weight is going to significantly drop your pressure. It's going to bring it back to, closer to normal numbers. All right. So I'm going back to this weight thing again because so many things are tied to it. Okay. So you want to know what your blood pressure is. That's something you should be tracking. If you're a smoker, you want to ask, how can I quit? Okay, because smoking increases your risk for many cancers, increases your risk for stroke, increases your risk for heart disease. Okay, so ask about help to get the smoking, under control. You can do patches. They've got all kinds of different ways for you to quit smoking now, right? You can use the patch. They have gum. You can do a lot of places will have employee health, assistance plans where you can actually go and talk to someone if you have any kind of addictive behavior where they can help you get off, whether it's alcohol, drugs, smoking, any of these things, right? The last one that I want to talk about is just a sedentary lifestyle. Okay. Right now, studies are showing that having a sedentary lifestyle and not being active is just as bad as smoking. Okay. So if you don't work out, ask yourself right now, when was the last time I worked out? If you're not working out, if you're not moving your body, if you're not getting in your steps, if you're not active, you're shooting yourself in the foot. It's just as bad as the person who's smoking. Isn't that something? Right? So all of these things are the things I want you to be thinking about. Menopause. I think when we go into the Q&A, we're going to talk about menopause there, maybe. And then you guys wanted to talk about, the weight loss medication. So we're going to talk about that. I'm going to stop here. And the big thing I want you to leave with for prevention, I want you to start thinking about your nutrition. How am I eating? A lot of us eat poorly because we do a lot of celebratory eating, right? And the celebratory eating is emotional eating too, right? It's not just emotional eating from you being sad and disappointed and depressed. You can have emotional eating from celebrations, the little, brunches, right? We go to the brunch. What are we eating? Bagels, croissants, pancakes, waffles. All of those things are processed and they're full of sugar and carbs, right? So the more sugar and carbs we're eating is going to increase insulin resistance, which is going to lead us into that pre-diabetic stage. So really start looking at your nutrition, right? And the women that I work with for fitness and weight loss, nutrition is a big thing we focus on. Knowing your macros, your macronutrients. How many grams of carbs should I have per day? How many grams of protein should I have per day? How many grams of fat should I have per day, right? In general, you want to keep your fat per day around 50 grams, right? I actually do calculations with them. And the challenge that we're doing right now, and the fitness challenge we're doing, we did calculations a couple of days ago, and when we did our nutrition talk. All right. LaShawn, can you put I don't know if you have the link for the fitness challenge, let them register for it. It's free. They can register for it. And can you also give them the link for the fitness accountability group so they can just join? There's so much information in there, so many, tutorials and trainings that they can start listening to. All right. So being able to understand your nutrition is huge, because once you master that and you get more movement in, oh my God, game changer. You feel more confident in your body. The weight comes off, right? Think about this. Just visualize, what would it do for you to be able to be healthier, more active, not be exasperated by running after your 2-year-old for 3 minutes in the park, right? Showing up in a way that you can go into your older years feeling functional and be able to be independent. That's what I want you to start thinking about. Going into these, prevention things is going to support you being an independent older woman, right? If you stop doing some of the things that, the alcohol, can we talk about the alcohol, y'all? For real. Like, for real. The alcohol. Sometimes people want to just do like a nightcap, right? Alcohol causes damage to your gut, right? Anything that's sugary, alcohol has a lot of sugar, damage to the gut lining, right? All the muffins, right? The cakes, the sweets, all of that's going to damage your gut lining, right? And so now you can't even absorb the nutrients in the food when you do eat something healthy. And 70% of your immune cells live in your intestines. So if you're doing the alcohol, you're doing the sugary foods, you're doing the sweets, you're doing all these things, these are things that we're doing. No one's forcing us to do these things, right? But we do it because we're celebrating. We're celebrating 4th of July. We're celebrating, parties, graduations, and we just make everything food centered. But then we're eating the wrong foods. So if you can master your nutrition, master your movement, master your stress, set boundaries for your time, right? To focus on doing these preventative things, you're going to set yourself up to win. All right. I hope this was helpful. Let's get to the questions.
Incredibly helpful. I don't know if you see the chat, but people are going crazy in the chat. Great information, Dr. Dye. We can't thank you enough for dropping those gems, as one of your Howard County sisters said. You're dropping the gems, sis. That's what she said. So let's go to the pre-submitted questions first. There are a lot of questions about weight loss drugs, about Mounjaro, about GLP-1, about the side effects and the risks of weight loss drugs. Can you talk about
Absolutely.
those?
I prescribe them. So I talk to a lot of my clients that come to do this work. I tell them the benefits, and let's talk about the benefits too, because it's actually not all bad, right? So these medications, there are some of them that are, FDA approved just for people with diabetes, right? There are some of them that are FDA approved primarily for weight loss. Okay. So say, for example, let's just talk about Ozempic and Wegovy. All right. Same medication, same chemical structure, made by the same company, but they market it differently for different purposes, right? So Ozempic is supposed to be just for diabetics. We know a lot of people are on it that are not diabetics, right? You can also go on it if you meet some other criteria. If you hit that BMI of over 30 and you have other comorbidities, if you've got diabetes, you've got, high blood pressure, or high cholesterol, some other comorbidities present already, and you are considered obese, you can get some of these medications, right? They're great for appetite suppression. Oh my God, it causes like severe appetite suppression. Some of my clients literally will forget to eat all day. So we have to put them on a feeding schedule because it drastically suppresses your appetite. What that does, though, is it gives you control. A lot of people overeat. A lot of people can't control their urges and cravings. So when you take a medication that really suppresses your appetite, your hunger, makes you feel full longer, it slows down gastric emptying, it slows down food moving through your intestinal tract. So you feel fuller longer, all right? And there are really good data and benefits for, what that does for the people who are on the medication. The flip side of it is it causes severe constipation. So everybody that I'm treating with the GLP-1s, I have them on a bowel prep, right? I have them on, probiotics. I have them on, some of them are taking stool softener. Some of them are taking, something to keep them going, right? Because you're going to be really backed up, because that's what the medication does. It slows down the mobility of your bowels, right? It literally, works on your brain and your hypothalamus to slow down your desire to eat. All right. So those are the good parts. It gives you control. You can go into scenarios and not feel like you're going to eat everything that you see, right? The weight comes off. The problem is a lot of times people get the weight off, but they lose muscle mass, right? So they're not doing strength training. Anybody that I'm putting on the medications, they're doing strength training. I give them, they're doing some kind of a program with me, right? So they're doing strength training, which is going to help with building, their muscle mass, right? So they lose the weight, but they don't lose the muscle. They don't have that sunken in face look, right? The building the muscle also is going to help if you're over 40 with your bone density, right? With giving you testosterone, you naturally build your testosterone, your body's going to produce more testosterone the more strength training you do. And that's going to give you more energy. It's going to help with your libido. Hello. Right? all those things. So you want to do strength training, guys. It also burns more calories throughout the day than, than cardio, right? So you want to add strength training to the medications. You want to have, a meal plan that works with the medication. The side effects, a lot of the things that are concerning, some people get diarrhea, some people get constipation, some people get vomiting, severe nausea. Some of the medications, Manjaro, those that I think somebody was asking about that specifically. When they tested them in rats, they saw that there was an increased risk of thyroid cancer. Also, there's an increased risk of something called pancreatitis. I've actually seen patients in the ER come in with pancreatitis. Pancreas is a gland that sits behind your stomach. It's right in the middle here in the upper part of your belly. It sits in the back of the stomach. It produces a lot of hormones. It produces insulin, it produces a lot of hormones that regulate your body. Some of these drugs will cause you to have an inflamed pancreas, which can cause severe dehydration, vomiting, abdominal pain. You end up in the ER. So we've seen enough of them now that when people come in and they say they're on these GLP-1s, we actually test for it. It's a blood test. We check your lipase level. Sometimes you need a CAT scan, to look and see if there's any inflammation of the pancreas. But those are the big things. You're going to have some gastrointestinal symptoms. There are a couple of the medications that when they did it in animal studies, there was a increased risk for cancer of the thyroid. The pancreatitis is an issue. And then for some people, it drops their glucose, right? Because it's a diabetic medication, right? So you also have to be mindful about that, because if you're not eating because you just don't have the appetite and your glucose drops, you can, get dizzy, pass out, so this is not without issues. It works great. We're still learning what the long-term effects of the drugs are going to be, but you have to go into every situation, knowing the good and the bad, weigh it and see whether this is something that's good for you and that you want to give it a shot.
I'm actually glad that you're talking about this. Can you discuss, since we're talking about medication and research, how research helps in prevention, and how it reduces some of the disparities and the comorbidity diseases and issues that we see as women of color?
Yes,
Can you talk
absolutely.
about research?
We are not, there isn't enough, there's not enough of us in research, right? A lot of research that's done is done on white men, right? So a lot of these guidelines that come out, we're not there. We're not in the studies. We're not, so sometimes they don't know how does it affect across racial lines, right? For some of the things. And so us being in a lot more of the studies that are coming out for medications will be really helpful to see if there's any difference, right? When you look at how the medication works for, the white men versus, African American versus Asian. So having the research data is helpful because you can see the numbers really don't lie, right? It'll tell you, look, this is the X, percentage of people who lost weight over a 12-month period taking this medication versus that medication. Manjaro was the one with the biggest weight loss, right? From all the GLP-1s, right? But it's also one of the ones that increase your risk for thyroid cancer, right? So just because it's the most effective one may not necessarily be the one that you want to do, right? So having the research and being able to look at all the data that came out when the studies were done, and then say, you know what, based on what I know, and go do your own research. Don't just listen to what your doctor is telling you. Come with, just being inquisitive. Don't come with Dr. Google attitude. We don't like that. Okay? We have 25 years of education to do what we do. Respect it. Okay? But so there's that. But before that, I want to talk about when you come in and you've gone and looked up your symptoms, or, you just want to know more about something and you've looked up the research for a particular condition. When you come in to discuss it with your doctor, just come from a place of curiosity. Just say, hey, what do you think about this study that showed blah, 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 blah? And you know what I mean? Come from a place of curiosity, come from a place of, look, I'm just trying to advocate for myself to make sure I get the best, and just ask them, say, if you're going to have to go with this or this, which one would you go with and why? I saw there was some research on X, Y, and Z, especially like blood, what do you call it? Birth control pills, right? Or
Yes.
hormone replenishment, right? There's a lot of question around, should we get on the hormones? Should we not get on the hormones? The hormones are amazing for women over 45, right? Because as we age, from age 35 and above, a lot of us are going to see a decline in our estrogen, our progesterone, our growth hormone levels, our testosterone levels. All these things will start to literally taper down by the time you hit 50, right? So we know that the average age for menopausal women in the US, the average woman will go into menopause, full-blown menopause, by age 51. That means 12 months of no period consecutively, 12 consecutive months, right? So know your data when you go in. If you're perimenopausal going in, ask, hey, what are my options? Right? I've got night sweats, I've got hot flashes, I've got, mental fog, I'm gaining weight in my abdomen, right? That abdominal weight gain is real because your estrogen is dropping and it's causing you to have a distribution of fat, right? The drop in the estrogen is going to increase that fat distribution in your abdomen. The drop in the estrogen is going to give you, the vaginal dryness, right? The painful intercourse, basically you're dropping your testosterone is going to make you not want to, that the libido goes away, right? All these things. So you want to educate yourself and see, what are my options when you go in, right?
This is so rich. This is so good. Can you go ahead and linger there for a moment with
Mhm.
menopause? We've got lots of menopause questions. What can you do in your early or late 30s in preparation of menopause? I don't know. Can you prepare? Or does it just kind of hit you over the head? Suggestions, or tips,
Well,
suggestions or tips for
that's a great
making
question,
sure.
actually. Let me answer that because
Yeah.
menopause is a spectrum. Okay. You have some early menopause, some people who go into menopause very early in their late 30s. You have some people who are 58 and still having a daggone period, and they're annoyed. They just want the thing to be over with, right? So perimenopause can go for years, right? You could be in perimenopause where you're having these occasional periods here and there. You may go 6 months, no period, and then boom, you have a period, right? You're still in perimenopause. That could go for 5, 6, 7, 8 years of being in perimenopause. You're not officially in menopause until you have 12 consecutive months of no menstrual cycle. Okay. And other people can get it super early, like 38, 39, right? A lot of people also, if they've had, chemotherapy, you can have surgical menopause. There's such a thing, right? So if you've had drugs for cancer, right, it can put you into early menopause. Okay. Obviously, if you had a hysterectomy and you're 35, right? Things like that. So you can have surgical menopause, you can have chemical menopause, right? So there are other ways you can go into menopause other than just natural, right? So you want to know those two. But what can you do about the menopausal symptoms? How can you support yourself? Go back to the nutrition again, right? So to really help in a natural way, to be able to minimize the menopausal symptoms, you really want to be on an anti-inflammatory meal plan. And I didn't say diet intentionally, on a meal plan, right? A meal plan is something you're going to be on moving forward. We're here for the long haul, right? The meal plan, you want anti-inflammatory foods, that's going to really manage, because estrogen is anti-inflammatory. Okay. Estrogen is anti-inflammatory. So when it naters and it goes down and it starts getting low, you start getting inflammation in your gut, inflammation in your joints. You're having joint pain, back pain, right? And you think it's arthritis, but it's the lack of estrogen, right? Progesterone is a mood stabilizer. As your progesterone drops, you start having wild mood swings. Your husband's like, who the heck is this woman? This is not who I married, right? You're crying about things that would normally just roll off your back. You're very sensitive, like emotionally, right? Your mood's all over the place. You can't sleep, racing thoughts, like all these things. It really affects your way of being, right? So how do you use nutrition? How do you use your well-being, your physical wellness? How do you now start focusing even more on that? Because that's what's really going to support you. Being able to have a gratitude practice, being able to meditate, being able to manage, have better boundaries with your how you manage people around you. That's not going to stress you out, right? Being able to say, is this in alignment with what I want for my life? Does this bring me joy? Right? So you, instead of, putting yourself out there, stressing yourself out, being on the PTA, being on the Girl Scout, being on the this, being on the that, you're on all these things and it's stressing you out. Right? And your normal hormone that will manage that stress is gone. Progesterone is out the door. So now you have to do other things, right? From a holistic place to manage the stress. Now, the other things when it comes to your nutrition, you can do things like omega-3 acid rich foods. So things like almonds, all the nuts, right? Nuts, avocado, fish, right? Make sure you get wild caught fish because it's going to have a lot more of the omega-3 acids in it, right? So things like that you want to add. You want to add olive oil, coconut oil, right? Things that are going to give you the omega-3 acids. That's going to be anti-inflammatory. You want to add green tea. Green tea is a great anti-inflammatory tea. It also helps your liver burn fat. It's a fat burner. It's a natural fat burner, right? So you want to add things like sweet potato, which can give you phytoestrogens, plant-based, right? So you really can use your meal plan, get real dialed in on what you're adding into your body, right? That's going to support you. And then if you add the hormone replenishment on top, boom, right? That's going to be the kicker, to add that if you truly need it. And a lot of times when people come to me, I do an audit I have them score themselves to see if they really need to go on a medication for hormone replenishment or not. Because sometimes just doing the behavioral modification, making them start being more mindful about stress, having a sleep hygiene, right? Maybe even adding some melatonin or, a supplement for the sleep, you know what I mean? And things like that can be helpful so that they don't need to go on the supplements. But the supplements are protective. Estrogen is protective for your brain, it's protective for your heart, it's protective for your bones. Okay. And let's just talk about the cancer risk. I know some people are thinking about it. All right. Of hormone replenishment. People are like, oh, my mother had breast cancer, so I don't want to take hormones. Okay. Going on hormone replenishment is not going to increase your risk anymore for breast cancer than you already had going in. Okay. So I want to give you permission to go and look into this for yourself, because going on these replenishment, protocols, literally within 8 weeks, your symptoms are gone. And you're like a new woman. Okay. So I don't want you to feel, a lot of the studies that were done, decades ago were done incorrectly, right? That led people to start thinking that the hormones were going to increase your risk for breast cancer. And the progesterone that they used in the study that got a lot of news, that progesterone is not even made anymore, right? So I just want you to know that if you need to get on the hormones because your menopausal symptoms are driving you freaking insane, get on it, right? Get someone who is a menopause specialist. Some of your OBGYNs may not be comfortable because they didn't train in this, right? If you're going to see your family doctor and that's the only person you go to for your care, they may not be, competent in doing this. So find somebody that's a menopause wellness specialist, okay? So that is someone that is going to be well-versed in it, and you can ask all the questions. And you also want to do something that's titratable. All right. I highly recommend you do not do pellets. They're hormone pellets, right? That is the dose is what it is. It gets inserted in the vagina, and a lot of them have very high doses of testosterone in them. We've had stories of women having their voice change, lose their hair, right? I would highly recommend you do not do pellets. If you go into anyone who's giving you pellets, run. Right? So make sure it's something topical. It could be a patch. It could be, something you rub on, a cream. It could be oils, some kind of a topical, preparation. that's titratable, that you can actually go up on the dose, go down on the dose. Once you insert that pellet, it's in. Right? And it's in your body. It could be there 3 months before you get your next one. And now you got to deal with, those side effects that are coming up from having the doses just be too high.
Dr. Dye, you are loaded with information. I know mochas are probably taking notes and trying to figure out how they can go back and listen to this information. We've had that question a few times in the chat. Can I go back and look? Is the link going to be available? Absolutely. We're going to send it out within the next 24 hours, along with all of the links that we provided to you for Dr. Dye. So we are at the top of the hour. So here's what I would like to do. For those of you that need to drop off, we thank you for coming. We thank you for your time. As I said, the links, all of the links will be shared that you received this evening, from getting more information about medical research, also for Dr. Dye's Facebook group, her fitness challenges, her consultation link, if you would like that. All of those things will be provided for you in a one-click email, so you don't have to search for those. In addition to getting the replay of this, we're going to run this whole thing back so you can watch it as many times as you need to gather as much information as you would like to. So those of you that need to depart, please go ahead and do so now. But for those of you that want to stay for the Q&A after party, we're going to go a little bit longer to get through some of your questions here. And thank you, Dr. Dye, for agreeing to do that.
I hope this was helpful, guys, for those of you who are hopping off. Let's see. I see Janet, Carla, Great Lady 11.
Yes. We've got lots of comments. This is so good. Thank you. Invaluable information. Just so many kudos for all of the information that you have shared. Let's jump in to muscle mass. Yes. And how do you get your muscle mass checked, and why is it important?
Your muscle mass. So there are different ways. You can do something at home, right? You can do, now I don't know if that's the question they wanted to ask, if it was actually muscle mass or bone density. I don't know if that's muscle mass is what they want, but let's just talk about muscle mass. So as we age, right? We're talking about menopause. So when you get to that 50, I just turned 50, y'all. So we're in the 50 and fabulous group. But when you get to menopause, right? Because of that drastic drop in estrogen, you're going to have demineralization of your bones, right? You're going to, and the drop in the testosterone as well. Remember, women make testosterone too, right? I think that's another thing people don't realize. Women make testosterone. They don't make as much, obviously, as men. But when our testosterone drops, the muscle mass, you'll feel that the muscles are flabbier, right? The thing that can really support you with building the muscle mass is strength training. Like I said before, right? If you start adding more weights to your strength training, to your workout plan, if you start lifting more, lifting heavier weights, and a lot of women are so worried that they're going to get too bulky, right? What you want to do, have you ever picked up a 10-year-old child, right? All of us have, or an 8-year-old child or a 6-year-old child. They're over 100 pounds. And we've picked them up with no problem. But go give a woman 30 pounds in a dumbbell. She can't pick up a 30-pound dumbbell, but she's been carrying that kid, that's like over 100 pounds. So you can do this work, y'all. You really can. So the mindset mastery that we do, in shifting your brain around about what your body's capable of. So the way you can do the calculations, there are digital scales. You can get it off of, any of these websites. I really don't want to promote Amazon, but you can, just put in digital scale and type it into Google, and, you can, there's one I have that's called Renpho, RENPHO. I've had that one for a long time. I got another new one called Hume, HUME. They're both digital scales. They can give you muscle mass. Right? You stand on it and it does, basically it has current going through your body, and it can give you your results. It can give you your BMI, body fat percentage, muscle mass, all these things, right? Skeletal muscle, it'll give you percentages, and you can trend it. That's the beautiful thing about these digital scales. You can trend it. If you want something more sophisticated. They have some of these 360 machines that you can actually go and get, stand on it, and it does like a 360. It goes around you like a panoramic, and you can get your muscle mass measured that way as well. But the simplest way would just be get a digital scale. And
Okay,
then you
that's
can
good to
trend
know.
it at home. You can see over 6 months of managing your, working
Mm,
on your toning and sculpting and losing the weight and all that. You can trend it to see the trend of building muscle, losing fat, body fat percentage going down, bone density, like all those things. You can see the data. You can track it and trend it.
tracking progress. Okay. Can you recommend a wellness program that incorporates positive self-talk, healthy mindfulness practices, fitness
Mine,
routines for people that I was waiting for you to say that.
you can do mine.
Can you talk about what you offer? Take a moment to talk about that.
Okay, so I have a couple of things. I have a 20-week program. Now, basically, it gives you a course, is a weight loss course, right? Fitness and weight loss course. And in that course, it's a personal development course, really. In there, we do a lot of mental health work. We do a lot of, going back and seeing where some of our underlying thoughts about weight, thoughts about, nutrition, a lot of that stuff came, early on in elementary school, middle school. We started having these thoughts that, we're always going to be heavy, or, we're not enough in some way, right? And that really can limit your ability to move forward in your fitness journey. So we do a lot of, just really clearing your mind so that you see how powerful and amazing you are, so that you can move into this work. So we do a lot of mindset work. And the program basically focuses on self-care, mental well-being, nutrition, fitness, right? Physical fitness. We have retreats. We do 2 retreats. You were mentioning the retreats. We actually just came from Mexico last month. So we do 2 retreats a year. So it's all built in to the program. It's a virtual program. I teach 2 live workouts every week. You have a meal plan customized to you, and you have a workout plan. You have one-on-one sessions with me. It's a coaching program. So you have one-on-one sessions, and then we do group sessions every Monday. I have guest speakers who come in once a month. I have guest speakers that are, in the mental health and finances. So it's really to actually have personal development in all areas of your self-care. Spiritual self-care, intellectual self-care, physical self-care. Well, that's where a lot of us spend a lot of time, is in the physical self-care with the hair and the massage and the things. But we really want to focus on our emotional and mental health, right? That's a big piece. We want to focus on our spiritual health, our financial health, right? Those are all parts of your self-care, your intellectual health, right? So we do all of that. So it's a comprehensive program to really support you. And people get raises in this program. People learn how to negotiate at work. Okay. Yes. So you're coming in, you're working on your well-being, you're working on your health, you're losing weight, 30, 40, 50 pounds, right? But you're also showing up differently in all areas of your life. You're showing up differently at work. You're asking for what you want. You're asking for the bonus. You know what I mean? You're empowered when you move from here to
Overall,
be able to create the life you want.
yeah. Yeah. There were a couple of questions about, loneliness after divorce and managing being an empty nester and all of those things. So what it sounds like your program does is really holistic health.
Absolutely.
Like it covers
Yes.
everything.
And
It
the
covers
women are
everything.
amazing, and they support each other. I mean, when they see each other at the retreat, it's like they're long lost girlfriends, and they support each other. And, you really find your tribe. You know what I mean? And these are all working women. These are women that are, really good stay-at-home moms, women that are just high power women, whether they're home or working, that they just have the mindset that they know there's more in life for them than where they are right now. And they're ready to tap in it,
Yeah.
and they're ready to soar, and they're ready to thrive, and they're ready to just be their very best. And that's how we do it. And I ask them, what do you see yourself being? What do you want to be? Right. And even
Yeah.
yesterday we did it. And I had them pick 3 words during the challenge, 3 words that you want to embody, 3 words that you want to be seen when you walk in a room. What do you want people to think about you? I'm a confident, loving, motivating leader, right? Come up with your words. What do you want to, what do you want to exude when you show up? And then what is it going to take for you to become that? Right? You gotta step outside of yourself. You gotta stretch. So I
Right.
stretch you.
I love it. I love it. Let's talk about something a little bit more practical, especially for our moms here. Work-life balance and being a caretaker and working full time and trying to find balance in all of those things and trying to find time for self-care and your personal enjoyment. Can you talk
Yes,
about that for a moment?
absolutely. Absolutely. So there is something called the Eisenhower matrix. Um, are you able to, let me see if I can pull it up. I think it really works when you see it. I'm going to pull up the Eisenhower matrix
Okay.
real quick. And I'll share my screen so they can see what it looks like. How do you make this all happen? Okay, let me see if I can pull it up. Make it bigger. Can we make it bigger? Images.
Share your screen first.
Yeah, I found it, but it's kind of tiny. Okay, let me see if I can open one.
Okay.
Yeah, it's small. Let me see if I can make it bigger. Okay, it's not getting as big as I would like it to be, but all right, we'll use this one. All right, let me share my screen. I'm gonna take that out and share my screen. Hold on one second. Okay, so you can even Google this yourself. I don't know how to just make it be one. I was trying to just pull one. Okay, this one, you can see this one good enough, right? So the
Yes. Let's
Eisenhower
see if we
decision
can.
matrix. I've been coaching on this for a while, and this matrix. Let me see if it'll get bigger. I really want it to be bigger. This matrix. The thing that makes it work is you get to start compartmentalizing all of the tasks you have, right? Your caregiver, your wife, your mother, your daughter, you're an entrepreneur, you are boss at work, running teams, right? You've got all these different hats going on. And I'm one of those people too. I'm divorced and dating. I'm a special needs mom. I'm running 2 different businesses. I travel for work every other week. So it's a lot to do, right? So how do you do it? So this box, right, is your box of what's urgent and important. Okay. The urgent and important box is the things that you absolutely have to do. Nobody can do it for you. Okay. The box of urgent but not important are things that you can delegate off your plate. Can you guys see can you guys see it?
It's really small. I wonder if you double click
Yeah,
on
let
it,
me see. I
if
tried
it
to
will
double click
maximize.
on this one. Let me see.
And then go to visit
Visit. Okay.
on the right-hand side,
Okay, that might.
that blue
Yeah, I
visit.
clicked it and this is what came up. Let me see. All right, here we go. Yes, look at you, girl. Awesome. Okay. So,
We actually can't see what you're saying. We still see the
oh, okay.
previous one. So stop your share and start it
Yep, I
again,
just did. So let's,
and then it should come back to
sure.
us.
All right, let's see. Okay, can you see it now?
I think we are there.
Awesome.
Yes,
Okay.
we're there. It's a
All
little bit
right,
better.
good.
Do schedule. Yes.
So the things that will have a consequence, right? So if something is on your list of things to do that's urgent, that means if you don't get it done, there's a deadline. You don't get it done, there's a consequence, right? You don't get paid, right? You get some kind of penalty, you get late fees, right? So if it's urgent and it's important, that's on your list of things to do. And try to keep your to-do list to 3 to 5 things only per day, right? Because the actuality is you're not going to do more than 5 things, right? So if you have it be 20 things a day, you're just going to start shooting yourself in the foot because you can't get them all done. And then you're going to go down that negative, self-talk spiral. oh, I'm not good enough, or oh, I always, not get my stuff done, or I'm procrastinating, you're going to go into that and it's not going to be a good feeling. So keep it to 3 to 5 things that absolutely must be done for the day, and they're urgent, meaning if you don't get them done, there's some consequence, and they're important. There's some value it adds to your life. Those are your things you as an individual get to do for the day. If it's something that's urgent but not important, meaning it doesn't have to be today, you doing it, and you can get somebody else to do it, delegate. So start asking yourself, as a caregiver, what can I delegate to somebody else to do? Can I delegate house cleaning? Can I delegate, the lawn service? Can I delegate, somebody doing the laundry? Can I delegate the food being delivered to the house instead of me leaving the house to go, to the supermarket? Can I delegate things being delivered to me instead of me going to the store? What can you delegate? So listen, 85% of my life is delegated out. I'm outsourcing that bad boy because I want to stay in my zone of genius. I want to stay in the lane that is productive, right? The things I'm really good at is what I want to be doing. If something is something I'm not good at, I'm going to delegate it to somebody else who can get it done faster, even if I have to pay for it. Look at your children in the house. Give them tasks. Delegate them to do certain things. And then the other one is scheduling, right? Schedule certain things that are not urgent. You still need to get it done. Maybe you need to get a passport because you're going on a trip out of the country. So it's important, but it's not like tomorrow. So schedule it, right? Schedule the things that are important, but they're not urgent. You don't need to have mind drama around it. You don't need to be worried that this thing hasn't happened yet when it's not even due for another 3 months, right? So put it on your calendar and schedule it. And when the time comes to deal with it, then you can be present and mindful about it at that time. But don't let it run around in your brain, taking up real estate when it's not even urgent, right? So schedule the things you can schedule and don't fuss about it until it's time to actually deal with it. Then this last one is the thing you're going to eliminate. All right. So in this, you're going to eliminate the things that are not adding any money to your bank account. It's not making your waist any slimmer. It's not improving your blood pressure, right? Something here is something you're spending a lot of time doing that's just wasting time. And maybe even getting you to be more sedentary, right? If you're just sitting at the computer all day and you're not getting up every hour on an hour, right? And you're thumbing around on Facebook or, watching your stories, desperate, what is it called? Not Desperate Housewives. What is the other housewife thing? Housewives of Atlanta, or, you know what I mean? Or whatever the thing, right? That you're doing. So you want to really be honest with yourself with this delete box. What am I doing here that's taking up time that I can really minimize, or I can really still be doing my self-care things while this event or this activity I like to do, which is like a guilty pleasure, right? That's happening. I can do it. Maybe I'm watching a show, but I'm on the Peloton bike, right? I'm giving away a Peloton bike this week, by the way. The what do you call it? The fitness challenge we're doing. The winner is going to win a Peloton bike this week, right? So maybe you're riding your bike. Maybe you're going for a walk. Maybe you're on your treadmill and watching your TV show at the same time. So try to see, what can I delete? What is sucking up my time that's making it such that I can't get my well-being to, I can get my own stuff done. What am I doing that is really a time guzzler, right? So if you start to sit with yourself and really look at your day, to be able to fit in integrate your wellness into your plan, you start prioritizing your well-being and putting it on your calendar, right? We do something in the program I run. It's called the Power Hour, where on Sunday, maybe it's after church or whenever in the afternoon you have some quiet time with yourself, you literally start to plan out your week. You plan out your meals. You plan out what days you're going to have your workout, what time you're going to have the workout. You literally plug it in on the calendar, just like you would plug in your kid's dental appointment, or you would plug in the times that you have to go to work. You would plug in meetings with your boss, Why aren't you plugging in your own stuff? Right? So I actually start with my needs first when I do my calendaring, right? I put all the things I need for me, date night, massage. I go to a stretch, a place here to get my body stretched out, stretch zone. I have a membership there. I have a spa membership. So yeah, the things that are going to be for your well-being, put them on the calendar first, and then let everything else fill the space after your well-being is put on. Right? So ask yourself, I'm going to do 3 workouts or 4 workouts this week. Where is it going to happen? Write it down. And then start keeping your word to yourself. Write it down and then make a commitment to follow through. Right? Because you follow through at work. You don't want them to look at you as the person who's slacking, but then you don't follow through on your own thing. Right? You put the workout there, but then you make an excuse and not do it. So if you put it on, really try to start being in integrity with your word to yourself. That's going to be such a boost to your confidence that you can do this work long term. And that's the goal. We want to do this long term.
My grandmother used to say, if you're going to lie to anybody, don't lie to yourself. Don't lie to yourself. One more question before we wrap up. Can you talk about blood pressure and reducing blood pressure? That was another hot topic that we received.
So, talking about blood pressure, and you can't talk about blood pressure without talking about weight. Okay, because they really go hand in hand. Even for the kids, we're seeing kids coming in, 12 years old and 180 pounds, 200 pounds. Like, it's becoming a regular thing, right? So of course they have high blood pressure and they're not even teenagers yet, right? So blood pressure is not just an adult thing. There are a lot of pediatrics we're seeing with high blood pressure. So if you have a child that is overweight or obese, you definitely want to get their blood pressure checked. A lot of parents won't think of it because they think it's an adult problem. You know what I mean? So if anyone has excess weight, make sure you're checking their blood pressure. There are a lot of people who have excess weight and have normal blood pressure too, right? There are a lot of people who don't have excess weight and also have high blood pressure. So I want to be clear. It's not just a weight issue. You could be normal weight and still have high blood pressure. We really want everybody screening for it, whether, no matter your size. And we want you to know what the normal blood pressure, are, the normal blood pressure ranges are, which I talked about earlier. And if yours is high, the first thing you want to do is start managing what you eat, looking for the sodium. So normally I do a bunch of label reading stuff in the program that I run. And normally you want to keep your sodium less than 2 grams a day, 2,000 milligrams a day. Okay. The problem is a lot of processed foods have 1,500, 1,800 milligrams of sodium in that one thing. If you already have high blood pressure, you really want to target your sodium to be about 1,500 or less. So you want even less than the 2,000 milligrams, right? So your nutrition is going to be key. Cleaning out your meals, eating clean, having a lot more veggies, lean proteins, complex carbs, avoiding packaged foods, right? Processed foods that are packaged, foods that are in cans and things like that. You really want to limit, because a lot of them, they're putting sodium in there, part of the preservatives, just for it to last, have a longer shelf life. So a lot of those TV dinners and things like that are packaged, prepackaged, is going to have a lot of sodium. So you really want to pay attention to that. And then you want to start working on your weight. You want to start working on your movement, right? To get the blood pressure down. Again, like I alluded to before, getting that blood pressure down by 10%, it's going to cost your weight, getting your weight down by 10%. So if you're 200 pounds and you lose 20 pounds, that's 10%, right? That in itself will have a significant improvement in your blood pressure, even if you're not on medications at that point, right? So losing weight is going to improve your blood pressure tremendously. Take the ownership of that. You're responsible for your body, right? Say, I am responsible for getting this weight off. I'm responsible for getting my glucose and blood pressure in check. What is it going to take? What version of me is it going to take for me to do this work? how do I need to show up moving forward?
Good.
Right? So these are the questions I want you to start asking yourself. What is it going to take for me to do this?
That's good.
And then flip it around. What would happen when I feel energized, when I feel like, I'm feeling myself again, the blood pressure is better. I don't have this dizziness when I stand up or when I try to go and exert myself. What would that do for me to lose the weight? What would it do for me to feel confident in my body and walk into spaces, not be feeling like people are judging
Yeah.
me? What would that do for you? Right? So start asking yourself those questions as you make the decision. You're one decision away from having the body you want, the health you want. You just got to decide, I'm ready, right? I'm ready to do this work. It's not easy, or else everybody be walking around here, in their very best bodies, but it's work. And it didn't take 30 days for you to get to where you are. This has been going on for years. So come in with the mindset that it's going to take some time, but I'm committed to the process. I'm committed to the outcome.
That's good. Well,
Okay.
listen, mochas and guests, I hope you have felt empowered this evening on thriving, not just surviving, a guide to health and wellness and comorbidity prevention. Somebody say prevention for Black.
Yes.
So we want to prevent all of the diseases and all of the things that we have seen our parents and our grandparents go through. That does not have to be our story. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Feel
Yes,
empowered to know you can do this work.
absolutely.
Feel empowered.
Absolutely. The main question we have been getting in the chat is how do we connect with Dr. Di? If you look in the chat, I have put live links in the chat. This video will stay on our YouTube page along with all of our other sessions that we have partnered with different organizations, most particularly All of Us Research Program. So make sure you take a look there. Make sure you take a look and click on how you can have a consultation with Dr. Di, how you can join her Facebook fitness group, how you can join her Facebook challenges. She has a lot going on and a lot that will benefit you. You will absolutely not be disappointed. So just as a reminder, make sure you go back and click all of those links and you can find all of those things connected to our session this evening. And if you need to run it back, run it on back.
But let me just tell them it's Dr. Di Fitness.
Yes.
Okay. So my Facebook page is Dr. Di Fitness, DRDI Fitness. Okay. So if you just type in Dr. Di Fitness, right, you'll see the Facebook page. And the fitness accountability group is a free group and it's professional women getting fit. So if you just type in professional women getting fit, and we have stay-at-home moms in there, we have working moms in there. Everybody in there is a high achieving woman that is just ready to support the other women that are in there. It's a wonderful group, professional women getting fit. So you can just put that in your, Google and it'll come
absolutely up. And if all else fails, put Dr. Di and everything of her comes up. I promise you'll see her on the news. You'll see her on television shows. You'll see her on every different thing. So look for Dr. Di. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Can't thank you enough for your time this evening, pouring into our mochas and our community. We truly appreciate it.
Absolutely.
This was invaluable information. And with that, I will say good night. Thank you, Mocha.
Have a wonderful evening. Get your movement on. Get your movement on.
Yeah, and I meant to mention as well, Mocha Moms has a Peloton group. I have a Peloton as well. And so does our national president, Quay. So maybe we can get some folks in on the Peloton group.
Yes. Start scheduling some rides. Actually, we have a ride in the challenge I'm doing right now. We're going to do a ride on Saturday. Okay. So, just to build community, we're going to do a ride on Saturday morning. So yes, start planning some rides and, doing some local walks. Even our chapter here, Howard County, we do walks, and things like that. So definitely the weather is right for you to get outside and start getting that transformation. Okay. Yes. That bodying. What?
Listen, you didn't talk about the picture on the first slide, but we'll have you back to dive into that a little bit. We haven't heard that. We haven't heard that story in a while, but if you see her transformation, my goodness, bodybuilding and all of the other amazing things. We're trying to be like you when we grow up. Thank you, Dr.
All right, y'all.
Oh, we need a leaderboard name. We need the leaderboard name. Do you want to give the leaderboard name? Your leaderboard name?
What is my leaderboard name? I think it's Lady Di MD. Let me see. And listen, y'all. I got a new phone and I lost 4 years of Peloton history.
Oh
Let's
no!
not
Yeah,
even
let's not
talk about it.
that.
I was pissed. I went to the Apple store like, what y'all doing?
Let's not talk about that.
Let's see. It's Lady Di, Lady, Lady Di, MD.
Lady Di, MD. So you all look for Dr. Di on Peloton. For those of you that have Peloton and for those of you that do not have Peloton, make sure you hit up that Facebook group. There's lots of invaluable information in there. So love, love, love this. I'm trying to get all of the different comments on the screen. There are so many flowing through. I'm trying to hit it all before we end the live stream. But thank you again, everyone, for joining us. And thank you, Dr. Di.
Thank you, guys.
Big, big, big Mocha hugs.
Yes, much love.
Have a good night.